Hey, what's up, guys? I'm doing another What's Next. This is on the still undefeated and reigning WBC middleweight champion Jermall Charlo and former three-time world title challenger Sergiy Derevyanchenko. They collided in the main event, our co-main event of the Showtime pay-per-view that featured both the Charlo brothers. They fought in the first of the two main events, and basically this was to decide who's the next big dog at middleweight, in my opinion. They were both respectively number 3 and 4. They might remain there after this fight. Charlo, though, he did better than I expected he was going to do. I thought he did enough damage early, and that to avoid Derevyanchenko's pressure in the middle rounds. And when it came to the late rounds, he had defended himself enough and landed some good shots to where he was prepared for the late rounds, and he clean swept the last few rounds, because he had the stamina, and he also landed some good shots and busted up Derevyanchenko early on. And I think when Derevyanchenko won a few rounds towards the middle, that really helped him doing that damage, because Derevyanchenko didn't have that same sizzle and pop that he had against Triple G and Daniel Jacobs. Now, it was a great win. It was for Charlo. So what's next for the undefeated WBC middleweight champion? For Charlo, I think he's got a lot going for him now. He's really got, he passed the test to prove that he is a top middleweight now. Absolutely. He shut it down with this win. That was a very, very good win, his career best, in my opinion. And now he can push forward towards something bigger. Now, there's nothing guaranteed right now for him, because he is Derevyanchenko was pretty much his mandatory. So I think he's in optional mode right now. And so it's kind of wide open. So I want to run through the top 10 and see what's possible for him. Canelo, you never know, but I don't see Canelo fighting him next. But I definitely think he's an option for the future as long as he stays undefeated. I would like to see that fight. But I really think Canelo, if he fights before the end of the year, is going to fight probably Adney Yildirim, and then he's probably going to face Triple G in May of next year. So maybe next year, but I don't see it next for Charlo, but you never know. Triple G, I don't see it next. He has a mandatory due next, and then he's going to be most likely fighting Canelo in the first half of next year, in my opinion. But we'll see, because the Canelo lawsuit situation totally messes everything up. If Canelo ends up signing with somebody else. If Canelo signs with the PBC, yeah, him and Charlo could definitely be next. Canelo could go after that fight, and Charlo already said he'd move up in weight to fight him. So, yeah, that could be possible. Now, other than that, rematch with Derevyanchenko wouldn't make sense. He won cleanly. Demetrius Andrade, if he wanted to roll the dice on that, but honestly, Andrade hasn't done anything, and he's got an ugly style. He hasn't beaten anybody significant, and he has an ugly style. I wouldn't take the risk if I was Charlo. I think that's a bad move. After that, number 6 at middleweight right now is Chris Eubank Jr. He was a favorite to get the fight with Charlo before Derevyanchenko got the fight. So I think this fight makes most sense in terms of what he could do. The easiest fight to make. Now, would Charlo want to take that risk against Eubank, who can hit? And he came down from 168. This guy can hit. He definitely can trade. Would he want to take that risk next, coming off of a nice victory over Derevyanchenko? Maybe, maybe not. But I think this fight makes the most sense for him. Ryota Murata, the WBA regular champion at 160. If the PBC and ESPN could come together, the fight could be possible, but I'm going to lean towards the no. Jaime Munguia, I don't think Golden Boy and the PBC are going to get together for this fight to get made, so I'm going to say no, even though I'd really like to see this fight. And I know Munguia wants to try to become the mandatory WBC number 1 contender, but Charlo wouldn't fight him next because he just got done with his number 1. Rob Grant, not seeing this one, wouldn't make sense for Charlo. And then, Kanat Islam, nope, wouldn't make sense, and neither would a rematch with Matt Korobov. So I really think if Charlo somehow moves up, it's only to fight Canelo. And if he stays here, I think the fight that makes the most sense would be, what's his name? I say what's his name like an idiot. Would be a fight with Chris Eubank Jr. Now, there was a potential rumor that maybe Jarrett Hurd moves up to 160. I don't know if Charlo wants any part of Jarrett Hurd. He might have the balls to fight him now, and I think this will be his biggest chance of pulling out the victory. But I don't know if he wants him, so we'd have to see. But you never know. So I think the most realistic possibility for him is a showdown with Chris Eubank Jr. Possibly if Canelo signs with the PBC, they fight at super middleweight, and but I don't see that one. And then after that, you know, like I said, it's kind of up in the air. Maybe Jarrett Hurd, maybe one of the guys from junior middleweight want to move up and fight him because PBC has a shitload of junior middleweight, so maybe they want to move up and fight him. But I'm gonna go with Chris Eubank Jr. next for him, but we'll see. Now, let's take a look at what's next for Sergiy Derevyanchenko coming off that loss. It's really wide open. I mean, does anybody want to take a risk against a guy as tough as Derevyanchenko? They might. You know, Derevyanchenko has lost to 3 studs at 3, you know, calendar years apart. He's lost to Daniel Jacobs in 18, Triple G in 19, and Charlo in 20. Now, I really think Jacobs and Triple G were overlooking him going into those fights where Charlo wasn't. And I think Derevyanchenko could cause problems for anybody. He's not going to get Canelo. He's not going to get Triple G. He's not going to get Charlo. That's just not going to happen. Now, does he want to fight Demetrius Andrade? Andrade's looking for an opponent. Andrade wants to test himself out. Does he want to go for another world title fight? I would lean towards a no if I was him. But you never know. Derevyanchenko's a tough motherfucker. You might want to go for it. You know, you got Chris Eubank Jr. If Eubank doesn't get the fight with Charlo, I think Eubank would fight him, definitely. So that's a possibility. Ryota Murata, I'm not seeing it. Maybe. Jaime Munguia, maybe. But I think Munguia is going to try to lock up a mandatory position. And then you got, you know, really nobody else really makes sense. So maybe Matt Korobov. But I'm going to lean towards the no on those. It's kind of up in the air for Derevyanchenko depending on how he wants to come back. So we'll see what happens. But all right, guys, that's the what's next on Charlo and Derevyanchenko. Hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, been here with the truth.